Hi guys, today I want to really focus in on the differences between the recently launched Shimano Ep8 RS motor, which is exclusive to the Orbea Rise, and the EP8 Shimano motor, which has replaced or will be replacing the old E8000. The first thing I want to point out is that both the EP8 RS and the EP8 are exactly the same motor. The only difference between the two is that the EP8 RS has got its own firmware, which has been designed by Orbea. The weight, they're both 2.6 kilos. The biggest difference is actually that the EP8 RS has got 16 Newton meters of torque, whereas the EP8 motor, which was launched a few months ago, has got 85. Before we get into the comparison of the two motors, I want to briefly outline the two bikes we've got here. First of all is the Orbea Rise, 29-inch wheels, front and rear, 140mm travel, weighs in at a ridiculous 16 kilos with a 380 watt-hour battery in the down tube. And on my left here, a bike that caused quite a stir recently, the Merida E160, 160mm travel front and rear, 29-inch wheel up front, 27.5 on the rear. This has got a 630 watt-hour battery and weighs in at 23 kilos. Now, the first similarity between the two motors is that they are both open systems, which means you can customize them via the Shimano E2 app, which means that both the EP8 RS and the EP8 are quite similar in many ways to the Bros, but quite different to the Bosch and Yamaha system, which means you can customize the character and the torque of both bikes. We are about to do two climbs. The first one is a pretty rough viral climb with a reasonable gradient, and the second one will be a more technical single track climb. Now, I am absolutely desperate to compare the differences between the EP8 RS and the EP8 motor. And I guess it's quite a simple thing to do. All I need to do is pop on each bike and put a time in, but it's not quite as simple as that because both bikes have got different gearing. There's a 32 chainring on the Orbea compared to 34 on the Merida. There's different tires, there's different tire compounds, there's different wheel sizes, and of course there's a different weight. 16 kilos on this bike versus 23 kilos on that bike. So in many ways, it's an unfair comparison. Or is it? Because this bike has been specifically designed for long range and adventure, whereas this bike is a harder hitting bike. So we're going to do two runs back to back, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tires off this into that, which might even things out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be in boost mode, and I'm going to give it 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Go. And we're away. Now, I guess in an ideal world, I would simply swap over the battery from the Orbea Rise into the Merida bike. But unfortunately, we can't do that because Orbea have their own proprietary battery in the down tube of the Rise, which means you can't fit it into the Merida. So here we are, ticking along at 17, 16 kilometers an hour. So even though the ground's pretty rough, we're motoring up here pretty well actually. Remember, harder compound tires, narrower tires, and more road profile than on the Merida. Okay. Okay, here we are on the E160, and we've got 3, 2, 1, and we're away. It's really important to remember that both these bikes are built for different purposes. One for longer adventure rides, and this one for blatting down big rock gardens and root fields. Whereas it feels a little bit easier on the lungs, I'm not sure that the speed is any different, but we'll find out in a second. Up by the stick. there is a difference. 12 seconds. So a 12-second difference then between the EP8 and the EP8 RS, and the bike with more travel, which is heavier, and with softer compound tyres, which are bigger volume. That's quite an advantage. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, it is simply a different feeling. Yes, this bike relies on more leg power, but that's exactly what it was designed to do. And it doesn't take away any of the fun of riding both these bikes. So what I was going to do is actually swap the tyres over from the Merida onto this bike, but I think common sense will tell you that tyres which are larger volume and softer compound are only going to be slower. Okay, so next step, we're going to take both bikes onto a technical single track climb. Right, I don't know why I signed myself up to this. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, this is tech. But cleaned the first bit, just about. Okay. This is horrible. This is horrible. Oh God. Right, so having done EWS power stage, this is equivalent, I can assure you. It's really rooty, so all those collisions just sapping your power. Oh gee, this is horrible. Why do I do it? Okay, steepens. Use my hand there. Oh boy, this is horrible. You can see the roots. Oh. Okay, here we go. The sting in the tail. Oh. So I think that's where it counts, is that when you're tired, it might be better to have more torque. I'm right. Right. Right, technical climb, Merida, and one rider. Here we go. Oh, he's got the line wrong. He's got the line wrong. Oh, fighting it. Oh, mistake there too. Oh, these mistakes, will they count? Into the horrible bit. Oh, yeah, definitely feel the difference. Definitely. I'm actually went up through the gears. Actually braking there. It's still horrible. Still really, really steep. And really, there's those ones. Oh, idiots. Right. And try and compose myself for the sting. There's the sting. Oh, can't do it on that either. Interesting. But the Orbea definitely feels easier to push, that's for sure. I'll have to bear that in mind if you're carrying back to the mountains. Here we go. And we've got 146. Wow, certainly felt slightly easier on the Merida E160, and that was reflected in the time, 10 seconds quicker on the Merida than on the Orbea Rise. But also it's also reflected in my heartbeat as well. 10 beats a minute higher on average on the 60 Newton meter bike compared to the 85 Newton meter bike. So yes, there is a difference in the times, but the questions you guys need to ask yourselves are, firstly, does time matter? And secondly is, do you actually ride technical terrain like this? And you need to think about the tipping point where the weight and the torque might actually be pulling you down the hill, whereas a lighter weight bike might actually enable you to get up the hill a little bit easier. Plus, of course, how much are you going to be carrying your e-mountain bike maybe in a mountain situation? Because I tell you what, I'd sooner be carrying that over the Tour of Mont Blanc than that one. I really do think we are now getting into a pattern of e-mountain bikes in the same way as mountain bikes have been categorized over the past 30 years into marathon, cross-country, enduro, downhill. So what we have here are two classic examples of an all-day, long-range adventure cross-country style bike weighing in at 16 kilos versus that big hitting brute 116 mil travel, higher torque Merida E160. So I think we really need now to begin to think about what type of riders we are when we're choosing our e-mountain bikes. So that's what I think, but what do you guys think about weight and torque? Now, I think what this has got me thinking about is the fact that you've got bikes such as the Specialized Levo SL with a motor weighs 1.95 kilos. The two EP8 motors, the EP8 RS and the EP8, weigh in at 2.6 kilos. And of course, you've got the Bosch, the fourth generation Bosch motor at 2.9 kilos. So actually, you can get more of a difference in weight through such things as a pair of tires or a pair of wheels than simply the motor alone. So this discussion about motor weight is becoming a little bit more irrelevant as time goes by, as we get tuned into different categories of e-mountain bike. I really want to spend more time on the Orbea Rise, and I really want to spend more time on the Merida E160. And I think that's just the great thing about e-mountain bikes, is they do so many things for us. So guys, let us know your comments, yeah, let's get a discussion going about motors and weight.